You're listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series and syndicating for the A-List Online. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and what follows on this particular instalment of the show is a conversation between myself and Frankie Bello from the outfit Anthrax. The reason for the conversation is to promote Anthrax's appearance at Download, which is happening in 2019. The two dates in Australia are Saturday the 9th of March in Sydney at Parramatta Park, and Monday the 11th of March at Melbourne at Flemington Racecourse. I'll probably go along to that one. So a bit of a problem happened at the end of the conversation. Well, it's the end of the conversation as it's been put to podcast because the phone call dropped out and I couldn't get Frankie back on the phone again, unfortunately, and we're having a really good conversation there. So maybe I'll get to catch up with Frank once he's out here in Australia or maybe a little bit beforehand. Either way, hope you enjoyed this conversation with Frank Bello from the outfit Anthrax. Here we go.
Good. How you doing, man? What's going on?
Mate, just leading dad life. I just finished picking up or vacuuming up bits of egg off the bloody carpet and after dropping my kids into daycare for the day. So you know how it is, mate. You're a parent.
Yes, I am. Funny you should say this. Now, what stage are you in? How old?
3 and 5, so right in the middle of the pain.
Oh, you're right. You're right in the thick of it all. Nice. So just so you know, words of advice,
Yep.
and for the future, it gets better.
Thanks for telling me. I know. I've got to keep on reminding myself that, to be honest, mate. I love my kids to death, as you know we do, mate. Nothing bad to say, but Jesus, it can be punishing at times, can't it?
Without a doubt. I have one 12-year-old boy, and we are into the homework thing. And in fact, just before you called, we were going over. We have both tests tomorrow. Now I say we because there's no test for them. It's about us now. We're still so we go back to school, and you'll find this out very soon, my friend.
Okay.
You have to rethink of everything you've done in the past. You have to go over it all again. But in America, they have this thing called it's another kind of math that's ridiculous. It's the core math.
Oh yeah.
It's just ridiculous. It's a roundabout way, and all the teachers hate it too. So the things you and I learned how to get to the answer right away, no, we have to show everything now and go about it and take 5 more minutes to get to every answer. So I'm very sarcastic on this because I'm well schooled in this now, unfortunately. So I'm a little bitter and sarcastic with that stuff.
What I can't understand though is, okay, so when you and I went to school, because I'm 40, okay, so I think I'm about 10 years younger than you, but it was a similar era, if you know what I'm saying. The 80s and the 90s is what I'm talking about. So
Sure.
In the 80s and the 90s, when you did calculus, it was just basically get the bloody answer. We don't care how you work it out. Show you working if you like, and we'll give you half a mark if there's 3 possible marks to obtain, but we'll give you half a mark if you can demonstrate that you've tried, and then we'll talk to you about how you've actually done it. But I always felt at the time, and this is true when you get out into the broader world, everybody's got a calculator on their phone, and you don't use calculus. So unless you're going to be, unless you're a budding engineer or a surgeon or somebody that uses maths in the day-to-day like an airline pilot, and even then a lot of it's automated, is it really practically useful? So why the hell are they keeping teaching kids and forcing kids to do this stuff?
Well, that's my point. It's a waste of time. And to be honest, and here in America, I don't know how it is there, but I'll tell you, a lot of, and I'm talking as a father here, there's a lot of downtime that going into it. It's not even downtime because they have to do so much studying. Like my son gets literally a minimum 2 hours of homework every night.
Wow.
So that
Jesus,
is,
yeah.
and they're talking about why isn't there family time? What's the breakup of families and all that stuff? And not to go on this whole thing with this, but it just drives me crazy that 2 hours of what could have been like hang time with your family, because there's not a lot of it. My wife works, so she gets home at 6 o'clock. We have maybe 3 hours before they go to bed. So if we're still going into homework, you want to give him a break when he gets home at 3 o'clock. You got to give him at least an hour. We're starting homework at 4 till 6. It's nonstop, and they wonder why the family thing is breaking up. But there's so much competition. I have a big problem with it. I really do. And but you know, he's in 7th grade now. But I look forward to the day, you know, where he just is just on his own, like and out of college and all that.
Yep.
Hopefully, goes to college and all that stuff. But I feel bad for the kids nowadays. I just think it's too competitive. There's not even time for them to hang out with their friends a lot of the time. That's sad.
Yeah, 2 hours a night is ridiculous. Is that like a private school? Is it sort of a setup?
No, it's a public school, and I ask about it all the time. And I say, why is there so much homework? And that's the quota. That's what they get, and you know, everybody does it. And but what I do notice is they complain in America about the the time families spend together.
Yeah.
Well, how much time can you actually spend together if you're doing 2 hours after school? If you have all that time, the full day of schoolwork, then you want more work. You just have to give them a break. I want to send them out with his friends and hang out, and like we did when we were young. I don't see that anymore. And I understand the video games and all that stuff, but there's partial for that, but there's not a lot of downtime, and it really it's stressful for them. I feel bad.
Yeah, I think it's as bad here, but of course because my kids are a lot younger than your son, she's only getting about half an hour a night, but it's fairly practical stuff like reading and numeracy, basic numeracy. So count to 10 and then count to 10 backwards, all of this sort of stuff, and point to the number and tell me what it is. It's basic stuff, but I imagine the stuff that your son's going through, it's not practically useful. That's the biggest issue with education.
Well, that's the whole thing. Make it. I mean, this Common Core stuff. It's not. I'm telling you, it's not. I don't care what any of them say. I talk to the teachers on the side. They can't say it publicly, but a lot of them say it's a waste of time. We can get to the same answers in half the time, and you and I can do the same division, subtraction, multiplication, and it just baffles me that because it has to do with money and some kind of somebody's getting funding from somewhere, and it drives me crazy.
You got to follow the money, mate, haven't you? It's exactly the same here. The old saying, "What happens in America, we get a couple of years later." It's true. Okay, so we've got something here called NAPLAN testing, which is determined. I think you've got something similar over there, although I don't know what it's called because I was listening to Joe Rogan's excellent podcast. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. We're dependent on the amount of performers there are in a school based on a standardized testing across the state. That is how funding is allocated. It's bullshit.
So just so you know, the rebel that I am, because I can't stand any of that, because it's all about money, we opt out, and this is a personal thing, we opt out of all those tests because you have the option. There's no way you're going to put that more stress on the child, in my opinion. Why would you put more stress on the child? Because those tests are really stressful, and it really puts a lot of pressure, more pressure than they have throughout the year, just being a kid. So we opt out of them every year, and nobody says anything. That's the way I feel about it. I feel very strongly about it. It's opt out every year.
Well, good on you, mate. Your son's clearly got a good dad with his head screwed on right, or parents, I should say, with their head screwed on right, because I agree with that totally. Yeah.
You know that you're the same. You could tell. You could tell the good dads and parents, but you have to be involved. I never had a dad. My dad took off when I was 10, so I want to be the best I could. So I'm just doing my best. I'm trying anyway.
Yeah. Well, talk about doing your best, mate. Anthrax has been in the business for a bloody long time. And I had a chat to Scott not too long ago, because he's in Australia, of course, as we're speaking.
Oh, yeah.
On his spoken word tour. But I was at the first download, and this second download has brought not so much surprises. Well, I suppose they are surprises, but it's a hell of a bloody lineup, isn't it? If you love your legacy metal acts, and probably some of the biggest metal acts in the world are on the bill. So my question for you, mate, about it would be, how far in advance did you guys get notice of the fact that you might be playing, or were you asked to play on the festival?
Yeah, in this world of music now, and you don't really hear about it until they have it set. We did hear that there was a download, and of course the possibility was we were entered into it and all that stuff. Of course, we're going to be submitted, and obviously it matches up great for Anthrax because we haven't been there in way too long, in my opinion. We love it there, so I was hoping it would line up, just because it was time, and to be on a bill like this, man. To find out, I knew we were submitted, and I had heard through the grapevine that there was a good chance because we hadn't been there in a while, and plus we've been on the Slayer tour. Let's face it, we've been on 2 legs of an American Slayer tour. We start next month on the 3rd leg in Europe. These shows are insanely packed and sold out everywhere. I mean, it's just the show. It was the show of the summer. It was the tour of the summer, without a doubt, in America. And I'm very proud to say that because they did the numbers, and it was just a great environment. And metal is alive and well, and I could tell you that much. But aside from that, so going back to Australia, I had a feeling we were going to be on it. We had heard that we were submitted, and they were talking about it, blah, 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 and it just all lined up. So when we got the acknowledgement that it was the notice that it was happening, it was ready, willing, and able. I mean, we're all stoked about it. Everybody's really genuinely excited because we've been really trying to get back there. We've been a little busy, but it's a really good time for us to get back. Yeah,
that last album, mate's a cracker. I've got to say, it's actually easily my favourite Joey album because I'm a John. I've got to volunteer this information. I love the John Bush era.
I agree.
Yeah, Stomp 442 is probably my favourite Anthrax album, I must say. So I think this last album, though, I think really it puts you guys, it allowed you guys to step up a level, if you don't mind me saying.
I appreciate it.
Very, very strong album, and I understand it sold very well as well. But did its success in the marketplace and amongst fans, did it surprise you?
Here's what I was surprised at. I was surprised that, because I'm a metal fan. I'm a music fan right off the bat. We take our time to write songs, and not that everybody doesn't. It's just that I know the painstaking thing that it has to go through for us to let a song go into the wild, outside. To actually, because it has to really get our gut. It really does make you move. It has to make you, that fire in your belly move. And I use that term a lot. It just really has to meet that criteria for us. And so when we let the record go, and when I say let it go, when I say when we feel like, oh wow, we're actually saying it's finished, it went through a lot. I mean, every kind of editing. That's why we live with the record. That's why it takes so long for an Anthrax record to be made. It's about writing it, living with it, making sure everything's exactly the way we want to live. I mean, you're living the record. Think about it. So it is a beautiful surprise to the success of the record, of course. But for people, when that record came out, it was, almost 3 years ago now, to say that this was the best of the bands at this stage in our career, a lot of people were saying that this is the best Anthrax record, and it kind of freaked us out. Like, wow, that's not only humbling. We're very lucky to be doing this specifically at this time. There's been this whole resurgence since the Big Four. There's been this whole resurgence of Anthrax, and all our bands. Let's face it, Slayer, Megadeth, Metallica, of course. They've never gone anywhere. They've always been the biggest band, which is great. And I'm great. Hey, look, I'm great. I'm grateful to be in a genre that Metallica is probably the biggest band. Is AC/DC, Guns N' Roses, probably one of the biggest bands in the world, and that's a metal group.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great thing to be under that umbrella. So I look forward to this stuff, man. I live this stuff. So the fan base around the world is so strong. It's just great to see after all this time that people are accepting Anthrax and saying, wow, they're putting out quality music. And that's all we ever want to do. Let's face it, you just want to write a great song so you can fucking go out and tour it and make people have the same vibe that you have and really have that energy on stage that you have with the fans, and you get that one great energy for the show. And that's what it's about, man. So I think we're very grateful and humbled at the same time, but we know, again, we're coming up to writing time. There's this energy that within the band, we're in a good place, and I can tell you this: it's an energetic kind of. I could tell this is going to be a heavy record. You could just tell the energy in the band. It's going to be a harder record, which I'm really psyched about.
Yeah, cool. Now, do you get feedback when you're doing meet and greets and fan social media interactions, this sort of thing, asking for some of the John material to be performed with Joey? And how close are you guys to maybe thinking about performing some of that? Look,
to be really honest, and this is, here's what I believe in the two different things. They're both great. In fact, I just saw Armored Saint, was it a month and a half ago in New York City. I went to see John, hung out with the guys in Armored Saint. I love those guys. They're all my friends. I'm very good. I'm very tight with John. I still text with him. We have a good laugh. So there's no animosity. There's nothing like that. It's just that was a separate band with John.
Yeah.
And that was a great fun band and great songs. I love all that. But with Joey, it's just a different band. Now, if you put it into perspective here, and you think about the catalog we have for both bands, really now, if you think about it, just Joey's the catalog we have with Joey. There's so many songs that I truly want to play from the Joey era. We can't even, in my opinion, it's even harder to think about going to a different kind of era without going deeper into Joey's era, because there's songs from Persistence of Time I want to play that just you can't fit in the set, and I guess that's a good problem to have, right?
It's a bloody good problem to have, but you've got a lot of really, really good, a lot of deep cuts too.
Thank you. That's what I'm saying. I would love to see when you said the deep cuts. I would love to do that deep cut stuff, and maybe one day that happens. But right now, there's so much there's so much of the Belladonna era. Along, by the way, I have to say this new record, in my opinion, I would love to play every song off the new record. I'm loving this new record to this day. And when I put it on, and which is weird that I actually still put it on, because I think just as a metal fan, I just love the songs. And that's not to say because I was part of the writing process. I just have a good time with it. So I want to play more songs off this record. So you have how many minutes do you have for a show?
Oh God, so download. What is it? What have you got?
Predicament.
You got about 60 minutes or 90 minutes at download?
Yeah, I don't even know. I haven't checked. All I know is that's going to be a full-on fifth gear energetic show, and just it's on. That's all I'm going to say. It's on.
So has somebody reached out to you and asked you to do some of the altitudes and attitudes stuff for a clinic whilst you're down here? Wow,
funny you say that, man, because I just got off the phone with Dave Ellison, my partner in Altitudes and Attitude, and we're putting out the record in January, and everything's ramping up now. This is specifically a hard rock record with melody. That's what this is, a hard rock record. It's not a metal record, but metal people will probably like it because it's hard rock, and most people that like metal like hard rock too. So I'm.
Yep, that's about where the call cut out. I will try to reconnect with Frank, as I said at the beginning, or the introduction of the podcast episode. Anyway, that's it. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and that was a conversation with Frank Bello from the outfit Anthrax. You've been listening to this all on Scars and Guitars, the podcast series and syndicating for the A-List Online. Thanks so much for listening.